Well, everyone, this is it. Welcome to the Intellectual Adventure Podcast. This project has been in the works for some time now, but after a thorough development process, we come today to bring you our first official episode. As a panel, we will not have everyone each episode, but we always have the potential each recording to have up to 8 panel members at once. We plan to launch an introduction on the release date, October 18th. So be on the lookout as well to gain a bit more perspective on how the editorial staff feels about the project. Our website is also officially up as of this recording. We hope to post and share any episodes created on the social media links that we provide on the website. There is always a chance it is on more platforms off the site, especially for the mobile or iOS users, but overall the vast majority will be accessible through the site. We really appreciate your consideration in taking the time to be part of the show with us today. We want to take this time now to introduce ourselves to you, the viewers, a bit better. Jeff, would you care to share and start off our adventure today? Tell us a little bit more about your background and what brings you to, dare I say, the daunting task of podcasting.
Well, I never once ever dreamed I'd be podcasting. It was just one of those things that I would listen to or watch and, gain information from other people. I appreciate that what I have, the knowledge that I have is desirable for others as well. I grew up in the Chicago area in the suburbs. Everybody got a little postage stamp of lawn in front of their, two-story apartment. They called them 2 flats and 3 flats because they were 2 and 3 stories tall, and each one was a separate living quarters, all brick. They were about 10 feet from the house next door, and there were roughly 40 to 50 houses or lots per block, with an alley behind and then another 50 houses on the backside of the alley, which was the next block over. So my grandmother had an extra large lot that she would garden, and she'd pay us to me and my brother to turn her garden over in the spring, and we get like $1. And then I don't know, over time I didn't have any direction. I started welding. I was a brazier at a hydraulic cylinder manufacturing company. And then I ended up joining the Air Force because I had no real direction, and that job wasn't going anywhere for me. So I learned to be an equipment operator, heavy equipment operator. At the same time, they taught me how to drive a semi truck because they didn't want to send another guy with me to haul my equipment just so I could run it somewhere. So I took those skills with me after I left the Air Force in 1984 and went back to Chicago, and I drove truck all over the city, and I hated it. I finally got a job at a railroad, Chicago Northwestern Railroad, and got into a crane. I was moving trailers around the yard. That wasn't so bad. I didn't have to deal with traffic and lights because every block you got a traffic light back there. And so I ended up moving trailers around the yard so they can load them onto and off of the rail cars, the stack trains. And then I ended up getting into a crane in that facility, and I was loading and unloading sea containers at the railroad. But I didn't work for the railroad. I worked for a subcontractor that was, hired by the railroad to do the work. The facility was called Global One. It had 2 sets of 3 tracks that were 3.5 miles long with a split in the middle. And we would line up mile after mile after mile of rail cars every night. I got an opportunity to visit California, and then finally an opportunity of a place to stay. So I sold and threw out everything I owned and moved to California. Um, I was hoping to go to work at the Port of Oakland doing the same kind of work, lifting containers on the ships or off on the trains, but I didn't know anything about the longshoreman's card, didn't have one, didn't know how to get one, so I became a roofer for a while, which
Ooh.
worked out really well when I roofed my own house and passed the inspection on the first day. But I digress. Um, I originally moved to Napa so that I could go in and out of the city of Oakland. Um, I met my uncle in the Fair Oaks area outside Sacramento, and he offered me a place to stay. So I made the move there. I started trucking again, hauling heavy equipment all over the place, all over California. I saw some of the best California scenery I ever did be in the cab of a truck by myself, early in the morning through the rice fields, that kind of stuff. And then I was hauling equipment for rental yards, equipment rental yards, U.S. Rentals, United Rentals, and then I got into the county. I got a job with the county as an equipment operator at the landfill, and I did that until 2011 when I developed asthma. Quite a bit of it from the job because there's a lot of dust and a lot of nasty stuff at the landfill. And so I've been semi-retired until last summer, this past summer when I officially retired. So I'm an officially retired OG at this point. Um, as
Yeah,
far as gardening, go ahead.
you've done a lot of industrial work. So it sounds like.
Yes, I've never worked in the um, house building industry, but I worked the soil before the house was built and after the house was built. So I got to watch a lot of construction, and I learned in that regard, not with hands on, but with eyes on. So it helped me in later years as well, doing my own stuff. And then I always wanted, as I was trucking, I didn't have any time, so I wanted to garden, and I just found every shortcut I could just so I could do, I bought roses at first, you know. You want to give your wife some roses, and you want to do it as much as possible. So the best way to do that is to grow your own. And I moved from 20-gallon black buckets outside of my apartment complex back door. Fortunately, I had a back door that most people didn't. And I took all those with me when I bought my house, and I planted them along the front of my house, along my driveway. I ran across a sale at Rite Aid. They had a pallet of roses and bare root roses for $1.49 a piece. So I bought like 30 of them. And I planted them 5 feet apart along my fence, my back fence, and along the back of the house. And I started learning about backyard orchard culture. So between each rose, I planted a semi-dwarf fruit tree that I kept fairly short, no more than, say, 10 or 12 feet tall. And it created a nice natural fence that was higher than my 6 foot. I couldn't raise my fence any higher than 6 feet. So it was a way to block the neighbors and then and produce fruit at the same time. I planted a bunch of stone fruit, nectarines, peaches, plums, pluots, apricots. I never got apricots to do very well, but the rest did pretty well. Cherries, I had a couple of cherry trees, and then I planted a few apples and pears, and those did really well. And so between the fence, next to the fence was a 10-foot easement for maintenance of power lines. So I couldn't do anything in that space. So along the other side of it, I planted citrus trees. So I had a 10-foot alley between two rows of trees. And then on the other side of the citrus trees, I basically turned the rest of the backyard into a mini farm. And since I was still trucking at the time, I didn't have a lot of spare time, so I what I did is I would till in the spring and I would put down drip irrigation, and then I would cover everything in black plastic. I bought a roll of concrete reinforcing wire and some T posts, and I stuck those up as like fences to grow tomatoes up on. I was growing tomatoes up on, vertically back in the late 90s. So, a little bit before the curve. And then I didn't care for the tomato cages. Those things just fall over all the time. So the concrete reinforcing wire fences worked really well. The spacing on them was 6 inches, 6 inch squares. So I would plant every other square. Um, I could feel where the drip was underneath the plastic. I cut a little T cut with a carton knife, and I would use a bulb auger to drill my holes right through the plastic. Um, at that point, I stopped digging holes by hand, and I just used the bulb auger after that with a cordless drill, and I could plant 100 plants in under an hour. It was easy.
Yeah,
So
I remember you showing me that technique actually out in the field.
yeah, so it made planting fast and easy. I got things in the ground. The black plastic kept weeds from growing, except for the around the base of each plant. There's just a little bit of grass or whatever. So I didn't have any weeding. I didn't have to water because everything was on a timer. All drip irrigation. And then basically I went out after work and go out and look for ripe tomatoes and peppers and stuff, and train the tomatoes to grow up the fences. you know and I'd had rows of tomatoes that were as tall as I was. You just have to reach in and grab a tomato, and so that's basically how I got into gardening and stuff like that.
I have a question for you based on that real fast. Did you ever have a moment in time where you felt like your plants were stronger or like were smarter than you?
Well, plants will do what plants want to do, and that's grow. Even in the worst of conditions, they'll struggle and strive to grow as best they can. Um, that's what they're supposed to do. So my job, I felt, was to just give them as much of the good stuff as I could. I thought the black plastic in the Sacramento area would be a problem with heat in the roots, but it didn't seem to bother it at all. They just seem to thrive even with the heated soil like that. In fact, it probably helped in the spring, and then once the plants grew up, they were kind of shading the plastic a little bit. So, but
Huh.
I
Yeah,
never really. Go ahead.
that's interesting to think about with the plastic and just the environment that it sustains. I wouldn't think that the heat would help like that, but
Yeah. Well, I would plant my tomatoes in bu- usually by the 1st of May down there, and so the soil was warming already, but it wasn't. But the tomatoes seemed to really like the heat from the soil. I learned that early on.
well, that's really fascinating. I think that's a great introduction to move forward from. Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kevin Danner. I'm living in Quincy, California, cool world. And I started out in Oakland, New Jersey, not Oakland, California, Oakland, New Jersey. Most states have an Oakville, Oaktown, Oak Lane, some kind of oak. And I grew up in an 18-acre forest, conifer, deciduous forest. Uh, and now I own an 18-acre forest in California. So I did full circle from an 18 forest in New Jersey to an 18-acre forest in California. But my 18-acre forest here borders a 40-acre piece of national forest, which is great. I'm building tree forts and planting trees and stuff like that. Having a great time out in the woods. Uh, Went to public school. Was lucky enough to avoid the war in Vietnam. My government tried to send me there when I was 18, and I realized here's a country the size of Florida with no air force and no navy, so there was no way they could attack us. And it just seemed like we were the bully beating up on a little country like Cuba, and like overthrowing the government in Guatemala and overthrowing the government in Iran and all these other places where we've intervened against democracy, overthrowing elected leaders. So all the good bands that came to New Jersey were from California. So on my 21st birthday, I loaded up my VW Bug, drove out to California, met a California girl, settled in with her for a while, and found out that you could go to college in California on the cheap. My first 2 years at De Anza Community College in Cupertino was $21 a year. That was the tuition, $21 a year. This was in the 1970s. And then I went to Sonoma State, got a BA at Sonoma State, got into a brand new PhD program at UC Santa Cruz in sociology, got the PhD, taught at Santa Cruz, taught at American University in Washington, taught at San Francisco State, taught at Mission High School in San Francisco, taught at Feather River College in the incarcerated students program. I taught at Mule Creek College down in Ione, California. And currently I substitute occasionally at Quincy High School. Along the way, I wrote a bunch of books, 10 Reasons to Abolish the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. It's like a little primer on the global economy and why capitalism creates more and more inequality and destroys the environment. Insurrection, the battle against its successful struggles against corporate power. We went around and looked at all the different cases where people got their act together and fought against corporate power and won, and what we can learn from those. Globalize This is about the World Trade Organization, why we did the protests in Seattle back in 99. The World Trade Organization is writing a constitution for the entire planet, and the rulings overrule our national laws, but it's in corporate profit making interests, so it continues. And nobody knows anything about it. Ask people on the street, what's the World Trade Organization? They'll go, oh, well, it's about trade. It's about rewriting the rules of the global economy to favor big transnational corporations. And a transnational corporation, by definition, doesn't give a damn about your particular location. They care about their profits, turning everything into money. Democratizing the global economy is about the battle against the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, how we organized some of the mass protests. And my favorite title is Corporations Are Going to Get Your Mama, Globalization and the Downsizing of the American Dream. This book was about showing how the globalization, the corporate globalization of the economy screws over the working class and only helps the very top people, the billionaires, the 1%. It's less than 1% now. It's like a tenth of a percent are getting all the tax breaks and most of the wealth. So we have to decide, are we going to have a world run by billionaires or is it going to be democracy? And if we're going to have a global economy, maybe we should have a global minimum wage, say $10,000 a year. That would be a huge boost for most poor people in the world, and maybe a global maximum wage like 10 million a year. I don't know anybody that really needs more than 10 million a year, but if you propose that limit on upper income, boy, you'd be in for a big fight. The billionaires would be fighting that stuff. The CEOs would be against it. So I'm lucky in that I'm retired, and I spend most of my days out in the forest. I collect apples off the street and off deserted properties, take those apples up and spread them in the forest because we'd rather have the bears eating the apples out there than coming down into town, which they do, and it freaks some people out. My bears are nice. They're very shy. Whenever they see me, they kind of walk away. disgusted. Oh, you humans. There's actually some recent studies in Africa where they set up sound speakers, two sound speakers. One had the sound of lions, the other had the sounds talking, and the humans talking scared more animals at the watering hole than the lion's voice. So the animals are pretty smart. We're dangerous. And I think we're at a point in history where we face a choice. Should we have money values rule over the life cycle, or should we have life values rule over the money cycle? Should we subordinate people and nature to the economy, or subordinate the economy to people and nature? And I hope we make the right choice. Things are looking pretty.
Yeah, I think that's well worded, Kevin. Those are very valid things to bring up in the global economy, and the values that we hold as societies definitely lay effect on the economy we have. If people didn't, have such a demand for such items, such production, there wouldn't be as much output and drastic effects. But I mean, it's at such a scale, the individual knows that it would take a team effort to instill change. So I think that's a very good introduction to move forward. And I suppose I'm actually next. I I'm here in Central Oregon now, doing this podcasting show with different background in music, and I've worked on web development and software development before with various projects, and I have always had a love for philosophy and discussion with uh, taking people's perspectives into consideration. And I don't think that there's any information that's necessarily bad to at least touch on in life, and to work on explaining and breaking down to better understand the world around you. Positive or negative, it's information that is meant to be interpreted. There's things that are given in life that you have to work with, and um, the reality of the situation is we each can prepare and take initiative, or we can back down and let the leading narrative control what you feel life should be. Say go to college and have a college career. That's a narrative that we've heard a lot. That's not necessarily always the case for success, and that ties in uh, a little. I'm a little ahead of the subject at hand, but we will be tying into success after going through the introductions. But I do think that my part in this project is simply bringing people to a place where we can have these discussions. And like Aquatic will probably tell you, it's something we're very excited to be doing. We all want to be here, um, and it's something that I think, with the audience participation involved, it's going to be a fun project. It really is going to be a fun project, and I really appreciate everyone who comes and joins us on this journey. I'm not very good at introducing my wild sprawl of life. It's been a little all over the place, but generally speaking, things will come out as the show progresses, I'm sure, where it, the discussions will open up parameters and open up my perspective to what needs to be shared, what should be shared. But I invite Aquatic to introduce himself if he would like to carry forward.
Yeah, hi. I'm Aquatic Cactus. I'm going to be one of your hosts of the Intellectual Adventure podcast here. I am a 27-year-old professional working on becoming a professional chef. In my free time, I'm a content creator. I am usually live streaming on Twitch, and I'm currently trying to create more long-form content on YouTube. Those places are areas that I'm trying to facilitate discussion because I find that's a point in my life where I've always been limited. I happen to be on the autistic spectrum. I have high functioning autistic spectrum disorder and ADHD. For those of you who don't know, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. My ADHD manifests very much internally or very much with my hands. You'll see me talking with my hands. You'll see me fidgeting. I always want to have something going on. And that really manifests itself in my life. I want to challenge myself and the people around me intellectually. I'm a very no nonsense type of person. I want to get straight to the point and maybe have a difficult discussion. Maybe have a discussion that causes you to challenge yourself, that causes me to challenge myself. I want to believe that we all have the potential to have great levels of understanding. And I think that we all have tools at our disposal, or we're trying to get tools in the hands of people that will give us the information we need to progress as a society. Very much in a way that Kevin was discussing, where we aren't so much economy based, we're very much people based, because we are a species, and an economy is a finite thing. It can run its course, it can crash, it can burn out. If we don't want our race to do that, we need to prioritize people over value, and we need to put value back into each other. And I believe that the way that happens is truly by putting value into yourself, into the people around you, and trying to find that value. And that gets a little bit off topic about me. So a little bit more about me. I'm a hobbyist gamer. I've been playing video games for 21 years. That ties back into my mental health. I tend to use games as an escape from reality. Anytime I wasn't enjoying my environment, I would go and create a better environment in a video game, or in a book, or through movies, through music. Media has always been my outlet to alter my surroundings. And sometimes I find that, your own surroundings are too much to deal with if you don't have a proper safety net, a proper support system in place. And so for me, having that escapism was easier for me until I could find a support system, or until I could build that network, to have people I could rely on. And I don't want to take up too much time. I know we're on a bit of a time constraint here. I think that says enough about me, and you'll learn a lot more about me as we go. But one thing I do want to add is, for me, there's no problems. Everything is a puzzle, and I just want to find a solution. It's about moving forward. It's not about getting caught up on whatever issue is right in front of you. It's that next step, and how you get to the destination is on you.
Well worded, Cactus. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for showing your introductions. And I apologize, mine was a little brief. I should add that I'm from Plumas County. I lived in the mountains for at least 18 years of my life, and I do have a deep love for nature, so I feel very connected with what Cactus and Kevin were pointing out with the bringing and instilling value in the human aspect of life. I really wanted to reiterate that, because that is a big aspect that inspired me to bring people together in the first place, to create this awesome project that we have rolling. And we actually really want to move into our next segment. The main topic of discussion today: what does success look like to you? And we're going to actually have Jeff here, Conestoga man. He's going to be responding with his "what does success look like to you?"
That's an interesting one, because I could say I've had some and I haven't had any in the same breath. Success, I think, to put it in perspective is to be as happy as you can be. And the closer that I am to nature and to outdoors, it seems that I become happier. I started growing bananas down in Sacramento because I felt comfortable around the plants, and I've maintained that connection. So for happiness for me is to be content with what you are and what you have and strive for a dream.
Now, would you say your striving for this happiness allows you to learn more positively? Like you gain more because of your positive outlook on life, because you're trying to gain um, a state of passion, or contentment.
Yeah, similar to aquatic cactus, I was the same way. I'm constantly looking for a solution. There's the whole world is full of problems, whether it's your car breaks down or whatever. Your plant's not growing right, and so I've always been solution oriented as far as that goes. Um, and I probably would have been diagnosed ADHD as well. All through school, all I could do is look out the window. I just want to be outside. I didn't want to be in that classroom.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
For me, success is to spend as much time in nature, just being one with nature and being content.
I like that. I like that. It seems that definition of success is very personalized, and I like that because it really defines what I was striving for with today's topic, to show that success is diverse, and for success might be hanging out in nature for you, and that is successful, and that's absolutely successful in my eyes. You're challenging yourself to do something that you love from the get-go, and I think that is absolutely successful.
Well, it's um, some people it's a lot of money, but you get to a point where as much as you have, it's not enough, and that goes back to the corporations and that Kevin was talking about. So it's never enough for them because they're not content. They never will be. They don't have enough. Whereas I've had challenges over my years and overcome many hardships and hello Rosie, and I've learned that to be happy and just content is the best success you could ever have.
Well, I think too that you're working, like when you're tending to your garden, you're that's work. It's not easy being a watcher of even if it's on a ranching basis or like a flock of uh, sheep, for instance, shepherds. That's work.
Mhm.
They may do work on their own, but it takes
It's
time and
hard work
patience
too.
and dedication and focus.
It's
And
hard
yeah,
work sometimes, and you got to do it in the middle of the night sometimes.
Yeah, it's commitment for sure.
I ran out and I covered up a bunch of sensitive veggies because we had a couple of 30-degree nights. So it's not
well,
like ranching overnight and being out in the field with your sheep, but I had to get up in the middle of the night and throw some towels on stuff.
plants speak to you in different ways.
Right. I got to deliver some cereal to Lisa. I'll be right back.
Hey, you're absolutely fine. We're gonna move forward to Kevin. Actually, what would you define um, success looking like to you?
Well, I think we make a mistake when we just think about personal success in a world of starving children and billionaires on the same planet. It's hard to find success on a personal basis. I was successful right from the get go because I had parents who loved me, and I always knew I was loved. I had a big tough guy father who was super gentle. He was always hugging. I went to bed at night with him scratching my back and telling me stories about what it was like to grow up in Ireland under British military occupation, where he had to hide in a church basement to study his own language, Irish Gaelic. And he died when I was 16. And when I was 18, my government tried to send me to Vietnam, and I realized I would be the British. The Vietnamese are the Irish. Why would I go kill my father? Imperialism, where one country goes and dominates a smaller country by killing people, that's just wrong. And I think anybody with half a brain can see that that's wrong. So success for me is not just that I'm safe, I'm out in my woods every day, I'm planting things, I'm seeing two turkeys walk by and a fox following them and things like that. That's a great privilege, and I see that as a privilege, and I'm very grateful. Personally, what I try to use as my three guiding principles are gratitude, forgiveness, and humor. Gratitude, because if you're alive and breathing, if you wake up in the morning and you're alive, you should be grateful. Forgiveness, because you're going to get screwed over. There's going to be people with less morals and, greedy people, whatever, and that's on them. That's not on you. So don't let that penetrate your soul. And humor, because we're supposed to have fun, we're supposed to play. There are some really good sociological studies of how play creates new ideas, creates really good chemistry in your body. Einstein said play is the highest form of research, which, if you think about it, yeah, when you're playing, you're experimenting, you're trying new avenues of discovery. And so I would describe not just a personal thing of you finding fulfillment in your life, but also wanting to have a world where we don't have starving children, we don't have guys shooting each other. And it's really a male problem. Let's face it, most of the killing is being done by guys, testosterone poisoning. Maybe we should try having women run things for a change. I raised two daughters, and they're both successful lawyers. I'm very happy. I got four grandchildren, but I always told my daughters, look, if you took all the men in the world and removed them from power and just picked women at random off the street and put them in power, they couldn't possibly screw the world up as bad as the men have done. So those of us men who have realized that maybe need to help foster out the world. The girls might save us.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid point to bring up. I mean, there's still a lot of controversy in the workforce with different values and what people see people's capability as, and I think that's very outdated. It's something that should be phased out because it's really not true. Everyone's unique in their own set of circumstance. I've seen leaders on both ends that are wonderful, and personally, like, yeah, I have no problem with women being in leadership when it comes to management and organization. Like, yeah, it's something that I think, like anything, there's a perspective on both sides, and in the workplace, that's no different. Like, or in just anything in particular, it's really like it surprised me when I went to the South, how contentious that could be. That was a topic that was commonly discussed. People had problems with the opposite sex in the workplace, and it's like, we're people. At the end of the day, we really should instill values in one another for positivity and being a team versus a confliction and desperation for a problem. Drama, drama is a fuel for a lot of things. Gossip, It's like I talk to people all the time about this before the internet. Like, what it was gossip, you know. There was small circles, and things were more um, at a personal level. And I think that affects the mental development of what people define as acceptable, and what they expect from the workplace. You know, if I got it from home, why wouldn't I expect it there?
Yeah, very much so. I think that's, nature versus nurture. The nurture always has an aspect of it, right? You come to expect the circumstance that you grow up in, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to define. Um,
Well, gentlemen, I am going to have to duck out at this point. I have to, I got church at 11, and Rosie needs to be run before that. Otherwise, she gets crazy.
hey, I completely understand. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today on the show. It's been a
I
pleasure
wish I could
talking with
stay.
you.
There's been a lot of good topics come up. So
Hey, we'll see you next time, and really wish you and Lisa a good day.
thank you. And you guys all have a good day as well.
Thanks. You as well, Jeff.
Bye.
Well, I suppose we'll go ahead and lead into the next portion of our discussion here, which will be um, my bit. What does success look like to me? Um, and I've been thinking this over, and success looks like the path less traveled in general to me. Like and it sounds weird to phrase it that way, but by traveling a road more used, you come to value the challenge, discomfort behind the road less used as you come to know it as your own. You're able to create and carve, a fresh coat, a fresh layer out of that struggle. And I think there's value behind the lessons learned, and that has to do with the road through failure. I've definitely failed and fallen on my face trying to present things and even just speak. I struggle with speaking, ironically. And so doing podcasting doesn't feel like second nature to me, even though it may present differently through projects and doing the World Networking podcast. But I still feel like an unease, a distrust within myself to succeed in my follow through. And I think that says a lot about the human psychology, even though you practice and try to erase habits. There's some stuff that's just deeply rooted, some anxieties have you, that definitely tend to determine a stance that feels obstructable. But it's something the show is helping me relax and work through. And again, it's a struggle. It's that failing at first that gets me to realize what a success can look like in my perception.
Yeah, I like that. That was well said. One part I really resonated with in there was you mentioned that it's carving out the path on the road less traveled, and I enjoyed that you said it's challenging what you're afraid of failure. You could fail when you're starting something out. We could fail, but you could succeed, and there's that chance. And you never know if you're going to succeed until you try, and you might fail. But I'm gonna give my age-old line here. You only failed if you didn't learn anything, and if you stopped trying. If you stop and you say, I couldn't do it, and you just call it a day, what was stopping you? Did you challenge yourself? Did you push yourself? Did you actually sit down and say, why can't I do it? And I think that's part of success. And I think you said it very well. You have to carve out that path.
I appreciate hearing that. I think it's, it sounds a little less fleshed out than my definition of success. But really it does come down to the look of what is going on around you. If you're needed in another area, if your expertise is valued somewhere else, like uh, you know, typically staying course towards that better path to fitting yourself in and your values that you've learned over your unique journey is feels at the end of the day more rewarding than being told what you have to study, being fixed on um, someone else's schedule. And there's times where it has to happen. Steps are necessary to be part of a team, but you you generally want that discomfort.
Yeah, I think we tend to look at the end result of the process and forget about the process and the struggle involved. Success is not some straight line, it's a very jagged line with setbacks. There's a parable about an old donkey that fell down a well, and the farmer couldn't figure out how to get the donkey out. So he got some friends together and said, "Look, we'll just throw dirt in on top and give him a burial." And they're shoveling, shoveling, shoveling. And after a couple hours of shoveling, they go over and look, and there's the donkey up to the top of the well. And what the donkey was doing was shaking off the dirt and stepping up. And life for us, I think, is very similar. You get dirt thrown at you, you shake it off, and you step up. There's going to be obstacles. You can't control everything that's thrown at you, but you can control your reaction to it and not get all freaked out by it and instead deal with it. And I think one of the things that's come up several times already is the idea we're looking for solutions. And I like to use the term solutionaries. We need to become solutionaries, not wringing our hands. Oh, the world is so awful. Oh, there's all these problems. Yeah, Lord, let's just fix it. Get her done. And my parents were peasant farmers originally, and my dad had a third grade education. My mom had an eighth grade education, but I never saw anxiety on their faces. I never saw fear from them when something was wrong. They just fix it, you just deal with it. So, solutionaries, we aim to become solutionaries.
Yeah, and I was actually just referring back to my list I had wrote about the meaning of success. And you know, there's a part defined in there. I want to highlight that it takes trust to build a certain kind of success too. There's a level where if you're presenting an idea, or you value something, you take pride in your work. You're you take pride because you want people to see that you value your life, you value that success, you value your workmanship. There could be a multitude of reasons, or maybe you simply value what you see in that person, and you're trying to motivate them to push forward in a direction that's positive. There's a lot of ways to spin it, but um, you there's different ways to succeed. It's like how coaches live through athletes. There's other ways to instill a successful approach that you may not directly be able to do on your own. And that's why I value teamwork. I value things like this and cooperation because that shows the potential strength with the human connection if we just take the time to understand and defer ourselves to the situation in a valuable way, in a way that's um, motivating us to bring our best.
Yeah, we're social animals, so success has to be defined in social terms. If you said, okay, you have a choice, you can end up your life with a lot of money and no friends, or a lot of friends and not much money. They're probably going to take friends, because your social connection is where your mental health and your happiness comes from. And actually, there's really good long-term studies in several societies where they track people over many decades, and longevity is ensured to a large extent by how well you're socially networked, how many friends, how many people can you share your problems and challenges with. So it's not just about exercise and eating good food, it's also about your social connectedness.
Yeah, a healthy connection is definitely a value to be had. Well said. Um, Aquatic, that leaves you. If you would like to leave us with
I'll
your.
lead off. I'm just reading over my script here, and I'm just we're gonna not use this. Um, so on a couple of my interjections here, I think I've pretty much already said the bare bones of what success is to me. Success to me, as Kevin said, is not just personal success. Success is there's personal success, there's social success, there's world success. And I think that we kind of forget that the impact that we make can affect the world, because we think about, oh, I'm one person. What can one person do across 8 billion? And it's part of why I started creating content. One person has influence if you can reach the right people. One person can spread a message, and one person can spread a message very quickly, as we know with gossip. You spread one bit of gossip in a school classroom, and in 2 days, half the school knows that bit of gossip. If you can get a message out that's not useless information, if you can get something powerful out to people, that would be global success. People, something that gets people to take initiative and say, there's more that I could do. There's more that I could do for the person beside me. There's more than I can do for my friends, for my family. There's more than I can do for my neighbor. Then you need to start looking around and say, what are those things? And it might be a small thing here or there, and you may think it's not impactful. But when you actually, look at the depth of your impact, things go a lot deeper than they may seem. And that's always what's been fascinating to me about human connection is we always hear people say, you don't know what a smile means to someone. And it really is true, because maybe everyone's been sneering at that person, miserable to that person all day long, all month long, years, decades long, and they're tired of it. And all they really wanted was a little bit of humor, like Kevin touched on. All they wanted was a little bit of compassion and that human connection, and they just didn't get it. And that's what causes someone to give up all their passion, all their energy, everything they've worked on. That is a failure in my eyes. We need to work not only on ourselves, but on each other. And that's a success. But what success boils down to me is passion. Whatever you decide to do, you're doing it with fire in your heart, that you don't let yourself down because you couldn't show up for yourself, because you weren't committed to something. I don't want to let a project die in the dirt because I started it and then I just wasn't there in the beginning. I want to throw myself into things and be a part of it and really reach whatever next step I'm trying to reach. I have financial goals, sure, but my financial goals are end games to just live comfortably so I can do what I want to do outside of that. Success is finding happiness in what you do, and not just professionally, personally, as hobbyists. If you like gaming, don't let someone shame you on that. Don't game for 12 hours a day every day. There's a limit. But if you find passion in something, don't let someone say, your passion is useless, because if you can inspire someone to be happy, that's a success in my book. If you can inspire yourself to experience the next day, that's a success, because you don't know what's around the corner, and it could be the best day of your life tomorrow. And if you're not there to experience it, that's not success. And I really don't think that there's a lot of failure in life. I think there's a lot of learning opportunities, but I think a failure to show up for yourself and for your peers is very much, that's the only time. Like when you're not there for your friends, for your family, for the people you say can count on you, and when you try and extend yourself for other people, you're not there, that's a failure. Anything short of that, I think you're working towards success. And if you're working towards success, then that's really admirable. And I think that everyone should always be searching for success in themselves and searching for success in others.
Yeah, and just to reinforce that point, there's really good brain science about when you do an act of kindness towards someone else or toward any living thing, it improves your own body chemistry. So being generous of spirit and thinking of others. In one of my books, we went through all the different religions of the world and showed that they all have some version of the golden rule: do unto others as you want others to do unto you. If sea turtles were doing to us what we're doing to sea turtles, there'd be sea turtles walking down the street slapping the shit out of us. So we need to unpack that word others to mean all living things, because we're seeing a mass die off of all sorts of plant and animal species, and seeing as we're at the top of the pyramid, we could actually exterminate ourselves eventually, and that's not cool. So one of the bad things about the capitalist money culture is it tends to define success in material terms: how much money you have, how big's your car, your house, your property. And I think redefining things in terms of the broader society and this precious little planet that we live on, defining success in those broader qualitative terms is better. And I think if you went to most people and you said, look, should you base your life on accumulating things or spreading love in the world, most people are going to take the latter, not the former. So that's part of my understanding of success.
Yeah, I think I can completely get behind that. Is that, success isn't about the quantitative, it's really about the qualitative. It's about the moments that count, not every single thing you could acquire in a moment or for over moments. It's about the little things: the first time you hold your child, the first time you graduated high school, the things you can only do once, that really brought a sense of commitment, accomplishment to yourself, and can inspire others, or even you could see those happy moments in others. You got to experience things with your friends, your family, those people around you, and you got to experience that communal joy. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's definitely something that's worth it's worth its weight to value quality. And in a consumeristic society, quality is really the name of the game. At the end of the day, that's efficiency. That's peak efficiency. If you're not having to fill your life with consumed goods as much as you were before, it's at least freeing you to a degree from that kind of antinosity, antenacity, and tat. I'll edit that out. But it basically helps you to work through that animosity. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, animosity is a weird one. Some people obviously don't want to see other people succeed. And I think that comes from a lack of commitment to self, and you don't like I said, you're not there for yourself. You don't have that confidence that what you're doing is enough compared to the next person. So it's hard to share in a success. You see someone else succeed. Social media makes you feel like you have to have the best of everything. You got to compare to Joe Blow next to you, but in reality, it's not about what the person next to you has, because their focus may be entirely different from your focus. But we've been kind of conditioned to think that whatever Joe's focus is needs to be my focus. If he's got a big yacht, I gotta get it. I gotta get a promotion and devote my life to this and get a big yacht. When in reality, it's you just need to do whatever makes you feel like you've succeeded. You just need to do whatever makes you feel like you can achieve happiness.
Yeah.
There's a useful concept in sociology called ecological fallacy, and that's where you have an example of one person. I had an aunt who got cut off by a black truck driver, and she started ranting about black truck drivers. She had an experience with one driver, and she extrapolated it to the entire group. And so racism, the struggle between Israelis and Palestinians, you see this, branding a whole group of people based on the behavior of a limited group. And it works the other way around too. You see macro data that shows when unemployment rates go up, mental hospital admissions go up as well. So a friend of yours gets unemployed and you say, oh, you're going to go crazy. No, you jump from macro data to a micro conclusion. And it's just as stupid as going from a micro bit of evidence to a macro conclusion. So ecological fallacy is one of those conceptual frameworks we should keep in our head when we're trying to understand the world's useful tool.
Okay. I like that. I wasn't familiar with the term, but I'd understand the concept when we did debate way back in elementary. It was comparing one tree to the entire forest and vice versa. You can't make an assumption based off of a singular experience. You have to have multiple data points and congruent evidence in multiple different areas that say this is the conclusion. You can't, but we're super quick to draw conclusions based on a single piece of evidence. And I like to view it as putting blinders on. If you have your hands up next to your eyes, you can only see what's in front of you. You have tunnel vision. Whereas you take your hands away, you can actually look around and see the full picture. But a lot of people, they just want to focus on what's in front of them and not, focus areas of play that would allow you to have that expansive understanding and connect why those things aren't the same.
We all need to be aware of confirmation bias. That is, selecting out the information you let into your brain that justifies your pre-existing beliefs, and things that challenge your pre-existing beliefs, shutting those out. Confirmation bias is really stupid, and we've got to help each other get around that by having respectful dialogue, not attacking people for their viewpoints, but raising questions and asking them about their life. When I was teaching at Mule Creek Prison, I always had the inmates write from their own experience. What's your experience of the economy? What's your experience of immigration? What's your experience of the family? And when I read those autobiographical essays, it was easy to understand why they were in prison. Dad was a drug dealer. Mom was strung out on crack. My dad left when I was 3 years old. You see all this incredible stuff happening to them growing up. That doesn't excuse their crimes, but it helps you understand why they got to where they were in prison.
Yeah, it's the stepping stones that led them to those decisions. It's the start of the path where no one said, "Hey, there are other ways."
Yeah.
And so
Right.
they kept going down that path, and it's all they knew. And again, confirmation bias. they kept getting affirmation as they went down. Okay, you start to get involved in gang life. The gangs start to give you affirmation. It's affirmation you never had. It's structure you never had. It's family you never had. It's like, okay, well, this must be the real thing. This must be something that I can be a part of. I can commit to. But it's based on using you for their needs generally. So it's, no one was there to say there are other ways. And that's what I'm saying, like that support system. If you don't have that support system, it's very easy for things to take a negative turn.
Right. Well, and the touch back on the assumptions, and stereotyping is it's something that bothers me in the workplace, especially when you're at the same level as your coworkers. And just the other day, I do dishwashing, and someone saw me moving a alcoholic beverage to the bar, and they were like, "Hey, you got to be careful. Uh, you never know if you're gonna get in trouble for moving that since you're underage." And I'm like, "I'm not underage." And the guy had never asked. He just assumed that any dishwasher must be a child, must be a teen trying to get started in the industry. And it's like, I hate that mentality where you have to have this certain prestige to be valued in the workplace. It it doesn't mean that you can't take pride in doing the groundskeeping work, the janitorial work. You know, someone's going to sit on that toilet, man. Someone's going to walk on that grass. Like it's all about your perspective, and that's what bothers me with it is I take pride in my work. Yeah, it's not much. It's not what I want to do for 60 years. Can't lie about that. But when I do it, I do want to do. That was a lot of do's. I want to put forth a good effort, and present quality. And that is a value that I do see in success. It is passion, but it is quality passion. It's not just you form passion through the quality of your work, and that's the value that I see happen with. I mean, even this project. I didn't plan to work on a website ultimately until weeks into the project. It was like I don't see the value in this, but as more time progressed, and um, things presented themselves through natural means, it's become something that I'm passionate about. Whoa, we have something that we can work with now. This creates excitement for the group. This creates interactivity, um, and for me, that makes me passionate. It makes me want to bring more quality. I know that was multifaceted, but
No, so I think I followed it all. I just want to add though, I want to circle back. Success is different for everyone. So when you when you say it bothers you, gotta understand they have a different perspective of success. They may
it
be
is
one of
true.
those people where they want financial success, where that's different from you, whereas you view success as doing a good job, regardless of what you're committing to, regardless of if it's your career or not, you want to present your best self. And that's success to you. So take pride in the fact that you can be successful doing what you're doing and challenge that level of personal pride every day. Don't be too prideful, but challenge that level. Say, am I better than I was yesterday? Keep striving for that next level of success in your personal happiness. But don't let someone else's perspective of success skew what you believe. If you believe, success is just doing your best every day, showing up the best you can, stay true to that.
I think that's really well framed, and I appreciate hearing that. I I think yeah, you caught me. You caught me. I slipped into the negative thought. It's too easy to do. We're only human, and quick to thought, right? It's not always haste that brings the best results.
Yeah, I completely understand. And sometimes and this ties back into what Kevin said earlier, we're social creatures. Sometimes you need someone else there to be like, hey, that's it. You're slacking. And
It's
I
true.
hope you guys catch me doing the same thing. It's like, oh, you're just caught in a negative mindset. It's like, don't let it eat you. We're focusing on how you can be successful, like what drives success, and as much as you want to inspire success in other people, you want other people to be successful. Sometimes you have to commit to personal success, and that will be what inspires the people around you. And some people won't be inspired by it because they have different definitions of success. But don't break your back trying to fix what your definition is to cater to them, because it'll never work. There will always be someone who's unhappy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the values between those successes, like you were saying, it's different. They can't be compared. They're marginally different. To value a material versus a value, um, it's yeah, it's a good point, and it's what the show is about. We're on an intellectual adventure. We're not on a biased one. We're not trying to come in here thinking one way after the show. Where we're trying to bring perspectives into our approach academically and intellectually speaking to see where we can improve, where we can have those moments of clarity and suggestion imposed. Well,
Yeah. Kevin, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, you guys summed it up pretty good. I think that positive attitude, there's a whole field now of positive psychology, and not getting caught up in the woe is me sort of culture of powerlessness. And you see this in a lot of different ways. People saying, oh, I'm only one person. What can I do? Everybody's only one person. Unless you have a multiple personality disorder or you're Siamese twin.
Exactly.
One person, but it's a cop out. It's saying I either don't understand what's going on in the world, or I don't give a damn, and I'm just going to cover my own backside and not worry about anybody else. That's really not in your own best interest. It's better to be connected and to have your heart broken. Of course, you're going to get your heart broken. That's what love involves. If you succeed on the first try, well, yeah, you're one in a million. Good luck. That's nice. Get hit by lightning. But most of us have to struggle through. And it's that learning how to do the struggle to come out on the other side of it, and keeping a positive attitude and believing in yourself. A lot of times you'll see people expressing in various ways that they don't believe in themselves. And that's why I started out by saying I was lucky. My parents, I always knew I was loved. So it was easy for me to have this big attitude about myself. Of course, I'm going to be successful because I had this love in the early phases. I've translated that into my gardening. When you've got a sprout and you take really good care of it in those early stages, it's going to do well. So, and having raised two daughters, I made sure I gave them a lot of my attention, made sure I was reading to them every night when they went to bed. And that then creates a conducive environment for love later on, that they're going to be better parents with their children. And I'm lucky I got 4 grandchildren and they're good kids. So count my blessings every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you said that very well. There's just one part I wanted to touch back on there. I think I lost it. It's okay. It was well said, and I think that we can end on there and then just do our closing bits, unless anyone has anything else to add. But I think that was a good discussion.
Yeah, I think we covered success. The framing of success well. If we had more perspectives here, we'd gain more understanding of what personal success can look like. But between three, I mean, at the personal level with anything, if you break it down, you're able to find something worth learning from. And I think I gained some perspective coming here together with you guys today. I'm sorry I couldn't have my video going, and the video was a little last minute planned. We decided why not, and having this up, I think, is a way to connect further with you, the viewers, and I hope to be able to set mine up soon, and with you guys being part of the show and all of the members involved and the guests that we're going to be bringing, I think we're only bound to find our own personal success through this project and some appreciation for our own view towards it. As long as we're able to keep producing and keep going and trekking in life, hopefully this project can endure as well. And I really have positive notes to say on that, and I look forward to the future, especially with you, Kevin, and Aquatic here, and the whole panel. I really wish well.
Well said. Closing notes for myself. I think that was a great first starting session. I can't wait to talk to you guys more. I wish we did have more of the panel here today so we could get a little bit of a wider view and a wider perspective, as you said, different experiences and things like that. But I do think that we had a really interesting conversation, and just with the brief bit that Jeff was here, we got some insight into how he views success. And I think even just in his bio there, where he talked about how he made his gardening succeed, you can really see that determination in him. You can see how him creating something is probably a part of what he views success in, and it's really cool to see his experiences and his viewpoints. Kevin, it was wonderful talking to you and hearing about your variety of books, and I absolutely look forward to hearing more about your perspective in the future. And honestly, I just want to thank the viewers for joining us on an intellectual adventure today.
I appreciate that, and I too want to thank you for joining us today on this intellectual adventure. And Kevin, you're the last man standing here. Would you like to say anything to the viewers?
Yeah, we need to take the suck out of success.
Leave it on humor. I love it.
Just says perfect.
Out of success.
Well, it's really been a pleasure, and I really hope you guys will tune in and keep up to date with our releases. We appreciate you coming, and until next time, this has been the Intellectual Adventure Podcast.
Bye for now.
See.
Thanks again for being part of our show today. This is such an exciting project for us as a group, and I really look forward to bringing you the next episode planned. Not this next week, but the week after. We're trying to do bi-weekly schedule, as to have time to edit and make quality content for you folks. We hope you understand, and we will continue posting updates on the website as updates appear. So if you're looking for any information about the show, please locate the About Us section for more content on our panel guests, and the homepage for current up-to-date offerings that we have going on in the community. We may have information about a guest that they linked, or have information about their research that they would like to provide, and all that we will link in archives on the site as well. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out through the forum as well to provide suggestions for topics of discussion. We look forward to interacting with you. It's been a pleasure. This has been an intellectual adventure, folks, and we're glad you stopped by.